A Very Important Teapot. Chapter 5, in which Dawson finds a girl at a party and then loses her again. On Saturday, sufficiently recovered to be able to walk more or less upright without seeing a facsimile of the aurora borealis flashing before his eyes, Dawson went to the after-show party. He went alone. Rachel had rejected his advances, and despite Dawson invoking Section 3 of Clause 2 of Paragraph 8 of the God's After-Show Party Rules Directive, which he'd written himself that afternoon, she had gone with Pratt, the solicitor. Dawson felt undeniably jealous watching through the serving hatch as the two of them danced closely together. At least he didn't feel like death anymore. Not his own death, anyway. He decided this was a good sign and moved off in search of alternative company. Standing in front of the fireplace, in the long through lounge of their host's several times extended semi, picking at a plate of chicken and mixed rice with a plastic fork, was a small, pretty, blonde girl with a ponytail and just a hint of freckles, who Dawson did not recognise. This was unusual for an after-show party, because only members of the cast and crew, immediate families, and, clearly, Pratt the solicitors, were invited. Dawson had not been so ill during the 4 days of the Panto's run, or indeed the 3 months of rehearsals preceding that he would not have recognised anyone involved with the production, especially anyone who had the good fortune to look like the blonde girl. Dawson felt that his luck had been unfairly buffeted during the last few days, but he was willing to give it another go, and in any case the blonde seemed quite definitely to be alone. Maybe she was a Polish au pair, he thought, probably without a word of English. "Hello," he said. It seemed as good a way as any to start. "Hi," she replied. Dawson considered for a moment whether or not this was the Polish equivalent of fuck off, and decided the evidence was inconclusive. He pressed on. "Why are you alone?" he ventured. "I don't know," she said. Definitely English, he concluded, or at least not Polish. "Are you at the right party?" "Look," said the girl, "have you got a form I could fill in later or something? I'm eating my supper, and if you've got many more questions, it'll get cold." "I'm sorry, it's just that I don't know you, and at shindigs like this, everyone knows everyone. Usually. It was the first time for everything." Then she grinned and looked up at him. "Actually," she said, "I live here. Your revered producer sired me many years ago before he lost interest in sex and took up the stage instead." "I see. And you're not interested, I take it." "In what?" She frowned. "Sex or the stage?" "I was thinking about the stage. I doubt if I've known you long enough to think about the other." "I'm going to carry on with my supper. I'm not sure you're nice to know." "Perhaps we should start again. I'm Dawson." "Just Dawson? Are you too important to have a first name, or have you forgotten it?" "Neither. I don't like it, so I tend not to use it." "Ooh, what is it? Ooh, no, don't tell me. Is it Endeavour, like Morse?" "Nothing that exciting. It's Saul." "I know." "You know, so why ask?" "Because hiding it's a bit bloody pretentious, like Sting or, I don't know, Bono or someone. There's nothing wrong with Saul. It's dreadful." "Well, granted, it's a bit different, but that's good, surely. Makes you stand out from the crowd." "Can't say I've ever noticed it having that effect." "That's because you don't use it. Ta-da! Anyway, if you don't like it, you could use your second name. What is it?" "Jeremy." Okay, scrub that. Stick to Saul. Or Dawson, which is where we came in. Anyway, how did you know that was my name?" "I came to the show tonight. I bought a programme. Mystery solved." She paused. "You haven't asked me my name yet." "1,000 pardons," he said. "It would be certainly nice to know who I'm arguing with." "Lucy," said the girl. "Where?" he asked, looking around. "Oh, God, a comedian," groaned Lucy. "I'd never have guessed by your performance tonight." "Fair enough," he smiled. "Although I read in some magazine that it's the job of the man in these situations to entertain the lady." "Blimey, where did you read that? Manners and Etiquette for the Victorian and Edwardian Withdrawing Room." "Oh, you subscribe too, do you?" Lucy laughed. "I think this is one of the silliest conversations I've ever had." "Really? You don't talk to people much, then?" "Not if I can help it. I'm always a bit afraid that I'll end up talking to a lunatic." I was right. "Are we getting on really well, or are you standing there thinking, what a dick?" "Come and dance," said Lucy. "Good answer," he replied, smiling. 2 hours later, the party had livened up a bit. Like most people, Dawson had had a few drinks, and at some point in the last hour he'd lost touch with Lucy. However, he couldn't quite remember when, or indeed how. Had he gone to get drinks and not made it back to her? This seemed unlikely. Or had it been the other way round? More likely. Or was there a trip to the toilet involved somewhere? Anyway, whatever the case, he couldn't see her now, although it was quite a big house, and she did, after all, live there, so had probably gone to bed. Dawson consulted his watch. It was getting on for 2:30, so yes, bed seemed the most likely answer. Still, he knew where she lived, after all. After a while, he found himself in the same group of people as John, the show's producer, owner of the house in which they stood and father of his newfound future girlfriend. "I didn't know you had a daughter," said Dawson. "And I didn't know you had a mole on your bottom, young Dawes." "I don't." "Neither do I." "Why are we talking about moles?" "I thought we were playing a game of unlikeliest hypothetical interjections, and that's not easy to say after 6 glasses of single malt." "We were talking about your daughter," suggested Dawson, hoping to steer the conversation back in the right direction. "As I say, I don't." "Don't what?" Dawson was getting more and more confused. "I don't have a daughter. I have a son, Tom, away at uni. Daughter? No, unless my wife's been keeping something from me." "But she was here." "Jane? Of course she's here. She lives here." "Jane?" "My wife, Jane." "No, your daughter, Lucy." There was a pause while they looked at each other. Then, slowly, Dawson said, "You don't have a daughter, do you?" "Got there at last. Congratulations. I think you either need a lot more to drink or to stop drinking entirely for the rest of your life. Your choice, but if it's the former, please lay off my single malt. I need a bit more myself, and I suspect the cellar's running dry."